Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO. Thank you for tuning in. You know, over the years, we have, as a communications and public relations media firm, we have covered the gauntlet when it came to the direct sales industry. Sometimes we did that from an advocacy standpoint where we're saying, hey, there's some issues here, let's watch them. At other times, we represented companies and we really took their mission, their story to the public. And over the years, we just kind of morphed into where we're at today. And today, we're able to give back. We're able to say, look, let's talk about companies, people, situations. Because right now, regulators are all over the place. The actual regulatory affairs in most companies is non-existent. Whether you're private or you're public, it's not there. And then all of a sudden, when something happens, what do? And if you don't have regulatory affairs, a lot of times you don't have compliance, a lot of times you don't have ethics, you just don't know. You're running by the seat of your pants. That's what entrepreneurs do. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But over the last, I'd say now, we're into January 2020, last 6 months, I've been really doing some due diligence on a company called Sharing Services, and they're the parent company of Elepreneurs and Elevacity. Robert Oblong, Jordon Brock was with him, but Robert Oblong started that. He's Mr. Happy, if you will. I mean, since I've known him now probably a good decade, and he's constantly happy. And when I say that, I'm talking about that's a way of life for him. So when he launched these companies, I thought, okay, this ought to be interesting, because over the years, Robert had been trying to launch travel companies. He's one of the original founders of World Ventures. Then he launched his own. Then he started to go into some personal development, always morphing himself just a little bit. Now, I've not always agreed with Robert. Matter of fact, I think Robert would agree if you ask him, hey, Troy will tell you sometimes I shoot myself in the foot. And I think sometimes that's because he is Mr. Happy. He's constantly thinking the best of other people. I remember a few years ago, I got into a little spat with him because I was a director of a company. Wasn't running the company, doing anything, but he had hired the company to do some media work, some marketing for them, and wasn't happy, and we had to work through that. And it was interesting because I got to see a little bit more of Robert, not from the happy side, but he stood his ground, and he was very authoritarian in how he was doing it, but he also could pretty much debate his argument. And I thought that was good. They worked it out. So when he launched the company, we started watching. Then I started watching good friends of mine join the company. Some of these friends are what we would call top income earners. They've made lots of money, had lots of success across the board. But in other cases, they would be C, B level leaders. And I don't mean that in their character. I don't mean that in the way they do their business. I mean, their teams were not that big, but they were passionate. And the first thing that I saw about this company was how passionate the people were for the products. It's in the nootropics arena. They had a good formulator. He's a formulator that I like because he's always riding the edge. Not the edge in ethics, but the edge in creativity, the edge in finding, hey, what can we do to take health and wellness to the next level? So I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting to watch. They had some critical stuff come out on some of the ingredients because of, the FDA, and people, they get a little freaky on things. So that we started watching. But then all of a sudden, Robert Oblong was nowhere to be found. And I thought that was strange. I'd just gotten back from the Association of Network Marketing Professionals annual event, where he puts on a remarkable show. Garrett McGrath, I think a lifelong friend, at least since they're adults. Their kids are best friends. They're hanging out. They're doing some great stuff. Nobody mentioned, hey, Robert's no longer with his company. I did get introduced to Kip Allison by Garrett McGrath. Said this is going to be the new president of the company, and he was very cordial but very fast. I mean, it's a busy event. Didn't have time to chat with him. But I talked to some other people there that were just totally stoked. Robert was on point with putting on this event. They gave him this like lifetime achievement award. It was pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, rumors started taking place. So I thought, you know what? It's time to do some investing. Let's take a peek at it. Started looking. Then I started hearing some scuttlebutt. Reached out to their board of directors. Now I believe he's their chairman, Keith Halls, and said, Keith, hey, we've served on some boards together. I've got some questions. I've got some concerns. I'd actually had some reps calling me saying, hey, we can't get paid. We've been terminated or we've been suspended or whatever. And I mean, gosh, that stuff goes on all the time. Keith said he had it taken care of, was handling it. That was great. But as it progressed, we started to see where John Fleming, a mentor of mine in the communication space, left the company. Larry Thompson, co-founder of Herbalife, left the company. Started seeing a lot of people leaving, and Robert was nowhere to be found. And it was just perplexing, and we just watched it. And then I had the opportunity at the, I guess it was in October, I was in Dallas at the Direct Selling Edge conference where I work with startup companies and entrepreneurs, and I had an opportunity to sit down with Robert and say, hey, can you give me the story? Can you tell me what's going on? I can tell you we had a great lunch, but that was about it, because he said, Troy, I can't talk about anything. I'm in lawsuits, just can't say nothing. And it's like, well, okay, it's his deal. So we started looking at the filings. Because as a public company, Tom Chenault's always taught me this, a public company, just go to the SEC and see what they're saying. So we started looking at the public filings, and I made a report and said, look, man, the reps in the field are kicking butt. Sales are up, but man, operational costs are through the roof. This company's not going to last as an emerging markets company if they can't get their operation under control, because as fast as the reps are making the money. Now understand too, I guess I should be fair and honest with this. 100% of the money coming in, only 50% of it goes to the company basically. In this case, before their compensation changes, about 43%. It was one of the highest payouts in compensation plans. I'm talking about net payouts, true cash to the field. But the way it was operating at that time is the C, B level leaders, the rank and file, those Main Street entrepreneurs, the 80%ers, they were making money. So they were selling product, they were using product, they were making money. It was a win-win. The compensation plan got changed from the way we're seeing some of the social media buzz right now. It seems like the shift made it come to about a 48% payout, and that's going to top-end leaders. It's not going to the rank and file like it was. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody gets paid, money's going out, but it's sad when you make these changes, especially when the change usually is so the company can save money. In this case, it looks like they actually increased the payout, but to what people did they increase the payout? That's the question that we're looking at. They just filed their Form 10Q, filed it at the end of the year. You guys can see that. You can go look. Matter of fact, I've been getting a lot of this information off of a website. I just love this. You know how we got the WikiLeaks for all that political stuff? Well, Truth, what is it? happycoffeetruth.com. That's happycoffeetruth.com. All it is the filings. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's almost every case that is out there. You can link to the SEC website. You can link to Texas website. It's a really good informative site. There's no commentary on it at all. It's just a depository, and we've done this ourselves. I did this with Zeek Rewards. We did it with AdSurf Daily. I've done it with other lawsuits. Not as pretty as this. Times have changed. It's gotten a little better. So it's good to see where you can go and get facts. There. To understand something, this website is full of facts. It is not full of truth. It's not full of misinformation or positive information. It's just facts. Okay, so you've got to be able to read the facts, and only a court of law will determine all of these different lawsuits. Now, some of the lawsuits have been settled. I've reached out over the last 6 months to numerous friends that were with the company in one facet or another, either as founding reps, as suppliers, as vendors, as strategic partners. Reached out to all of them. in almost every case, I've had the same response. Troy, when we did our settlement, there's a clause in there we can't talk about. It's a non-disparaging clause. We're sworn to secrecy type deal, which is cool. That's fine. I mean, I would do that if I was running the company. So I don't have any problem with that. It's just been hard to get certain information until lately. I mean, lately it seems like, well, here's what I would suggest. If Garrett McGrath or Kip Allison or Keith Halls or any of their legal team would be watching this video, I would suggest that you guys start shredding information and not putting it out in the trash, because it does seem like there's some investigators of some kind that keep coming up with stuff in your trash. And if I was you, I would just shred my information and make sure that as a publicly traded company, you have a up-to-date on stuff. I mean, I'm just a journalist and a reporter, and even my attorneys have said, Troy, you need to shred information so it doesn't get into the wrong hands. And my CPA has me shred all of our documents before we send it out into the trash. So anything that's past, I'm just, what do I know? You know, these guys run a publicly traded company. So I want to look at some stuff though in this latest filing, because I think it's good. One of the things that we've noticed in social media, because you can run all the analytics, is although the numbers were up in 2019, now part of this is the holiday, we've seen a flat line. They've had some formulation changes. They've had some, I think, regulatory concerns about some of the ingredients. They've got all these lawsuits, and I think people are getting scared when the field starts to get concerned when people that they respected and trusted leave the company. This is just part of direct sales. Then people get a little bit of paranoid. Add to that the holidays, and man, you can come up with a little bit of cash crunch, not counting probably, at the count of these lawsuits, probably millions of dollars in attorney's fees. But I want to look at something here. The company has done a phenomenal job at filing their 10Q. This is great. They mention things on here that could be detrimental to the company. I'm going to go over those in a minute. What they didn't mention on here in the beginning was the lawsuits. Now, they do get into that later on, and I'm glad they did, because I think that's important. But I want to look at something here. They mentioned total assets now are 26 million versus 16 million. Personally, I think that's great. Okay, when you can build your asset base, not just sales, but you're increasing assets, you're doing some stuff you're supposed to do, that's a win-win, okay, across the board. What they have done though, and this is the frustrating part, is their liabilities now have gone to 24 million. So they've got 26 million in assets, 24 million in liabilities. That doesn't leave you much breathing room at all. And when we get into, and they mention this, when you get into the actual factor of did we make money or did we not, they actually lost $2 million versus making $30 million same time last year. And that's been my concern. Now, overall, company losing money, you know, Amazon lost money probably for 10 years. Okay, Apple's lost money. Any company that is in a research and development type of business, and even though their two biggest arms of this company are direct sales, your R&D can be expensive, even if you're using a third-party source, because eventually, if you're, and this is one of their exciting things that they talk about, they want to go to the NASDAQ. I've been with a company who went to the NASDAQ. I know what it takes to go to the NASDAQ, and they're not even, I mean, their stock price isn't even where they can go to the NASDAQ right now, but they should be spending some money, probably not on lawsuits, but on white papers, on scientific research, on third-party validation of the products. Now, they may not be doing that because I've also seen a shift. Man, we've just got some great companies that we work with, companies we have equity in, and one of those is an analytical firm. And so we watch terms, we watch company names, brands and stuff, and Happy Coffee has plateaued. It's starting to go on the downside. I think that's why we're starting to see people use Smart Coffee. You know, it's not that the nootropics is going away. It's not. But it's the fact that you have to shift, and these guys need to really shift. And they've got Garrett McGrath over there now. Maybe he can help them out on some of this stuff. You know, Keith Halls has had purportedly had a great background in direct sales, so he ought to know some of this stuff and be able to help them out. And if not, then if I was Kip Allison, who doesn't know his head from a hole in the ground about direct sales, He's been, from all the stuff that you can see on the website, he's been a litigator most of his life. He just needs to get the right people around him. And I mean, he's doing that from the lawsuit side. I mean, it's almost like well, a lot of you guys know my background as a bounty hunter and a bail bondsman, and growing up in and around organized crime. And I got to admit that it looks like the people that Kip has put around him are very loyal to him. They're going to protect him. They're going to protect the company brand. So I think that's a positive, as long as, you know, it sticks. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. I want to look at something though here that I thought was very interesting. That's the lawsuits, because this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and this is where I get concerned for the reps in this deal. And when we look at these are their legal proceedings right now. And understand, this is an emerging market company. When you're an emerging market company, when you're coming out of the ground, and you guys should know this, whether you're private or public, when you're coming out and you're building that business, your expenses are always going to be high. That's why I give them a little bit of leeway. I just say, man, you got to get these under control, because it's tough. But when you add to that all these lawsuits, I remember when Brian Underwood and Ron Williams got into it. Now Brian Underwood runs a company called Prove It, which I bring them up because they're in a lawsuit with this company too. And Ron Williams was the founder and CEO at the time of Forever Green. And they went head to head. Just that one lawsuit, according to the SEC filings, legal fees were into the $700,000 for Forever Green. I have no clue what Prove It might have paid. So I'm looking at, that was one lawsuit. I'm looking here in January of 2019. These are all going to be like a year, just in 1 year. Okay, understand something. This is why this is perplexing to me. It's why it concerns me for the field. Robert Oblong is running the company. You don't see a lot of lawsuits. Then all of a sudden, Kip Allison starts to get involved in the company. Keith Halls takes a more active role in the company, and they become freaking sue happy. I mean, it's just nuts when I see this. And you may, Troy, why'd you bring those two guys' names up? Well, Keith's the chairman of the board, and Kip is the CEO. So if leadership is where it starts, then that's the leadership side of it. So when I look at this, January 19, June, July again, August, September. No, August, 3 of them in August, different things going on. September, October. I mean, these are all, now some of these are intertwined, so don't get me wrong, they're continuations. But I'm looking at this. Kip Allison becomes the COO of the company. Now, from the documents that we've got on the website here that have been filed with the courts, he was Robert Oblong's personal attorney. As a friend, Robert says, why don't you become my CEO and help me grow this thing, and together we'll go do something. That's what it's about, especially in Texas. And all of a sudden, Robert's kicked out, Kip's running things, Keith Hall's in, and then Garrett McGrath comes in. Now, these are all friends, one way or the other, with Robert Oblong. And when you look backwards, a lot of the employees outside of Kip all came through Garrett McGrath. So I mean, you can't go wrong when everybody's worked together, everybody's been busting their butt, everybody knows each other, except all of a sudden the founder's gone. Why? And then in one of these lawsuits, it's really weird. Kip Allison is he's like the trustee of Robert Oblong's company, which is the largest shareholder of the stock, but yet he's voting the stock in here. Now, if I was his attorney, and this would be a Jerry Spence type deal, or he probably, Bruce Cutler might do this, but this would be the way it would probably come down if I was there working as their attorney, because I've read enough about what Jerry's done. And I'm not one. I played Matlock once. No, I'm joking. Okay, but here's the deal. If you're in the role of a trustee, then they can't say that, well, you did this because you were the CEO or the director of the company. And in this case, that's literally what Kip Allison was. Kip Allison is the trustee of a trust in which the stock has been placed in, which the stock was placed in that, understand, I would do the same thing. It was put in the trust to be able to keep Jordon Brock and Robert Oblong a hand's length from the company. That makes sense. If you've got some kind of squabbish going on, you don't want the guy that you're trying to find the dirt on, who happens to be the largest shareholder, to be able to vote his shares and fire you. I mean, that basically is it. I'm going to go in and clean house. Doesn't, you know, you don't want that. So you set the trust up for whatever reason. Probably Robert was at the time, okay, whatever, this is my personal attorney, maybe that were, I don't know. Nobody talks, so it's this is all subjective on my part. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, they've put in here that none of these lawsuits matter, that it's not going to disrupt the business. I even had Keith Halls tell me, Troy, we're going to win all these. We've got information. We just can't talk to you. We're going to tell you later. But yet the more documents that I seem to get, and some of them we just can't talk about because I don't know where they come from. So if they're, you know, all I know is if I was y'all, I'd be shredding my stuff. I wouldn't be putting it in the trash can. And if you're supposed to shred this stuff and somebody's not, then I'd be looking inside and saying, hey, I've just brought a bunch of new people on. Who's causing me problems here? Because there's some of this stuff isn't, but all of the stuff that we have got, all the stuff that we're talking about is on the website, comes directly from the courts, comes directly from the SEC's website, and that's what we're going to do. And what started out looking like, because this is what I would do, if I was the chairman of the company, I'd say, look, Troy, no reason to report on anything, but when we're ready, we're going to tell you, because we're going to win. Well, it's not looking like they're going to win. At least not on all this. Some of this stuff they are going to win, maybe. Some of it they've been able to use some legal maneuvers, but these latest legal maneuvers don't seem to be working right. That's the perplexing stuff. And that's where I go back to, if I was Kip's attorney, they got a lawsuit in a couple days, and if it was me, I'd be honing in on the fact, hey, Kip Allison wasn't working, didn't vote his shares, didn't do any of this stuff based on the fact that he was the CEO of the company. He didn't do it because he was the director of the company. He solely did it because he was the trustee and he was looking out for the best interest of the trust. That's how I would play that. And I don't know that in Texas there's a stupid judge at all. So I do think the judge would probably figure out, wait a minute, same guy, 3 different roles, okay? It's not the Trinity here, okay? So in his mind, he's just human. Okay, I've got a CEO's position. I make a lot of money there. I'm a director. I've got stock. I also control the largest block of stock. I mean, if we can take this thing to NASDAQ or somebody buys it, I can make a lot of money. Yeah, there's just a bunch of questions here, man. And the ones that get hurt are the reps in the field. These products have been working, even with the formulation changing. Gosh, guys, that's going to happen. You can't focus just on one product. You've got to focus on the culture that's there. That's a given. And you've got to see that. Okay, you've got some good leaders that are trying to lead even with all this crap that's going on, all these lawsuits, everybody worried about, hey, what's going on here, what's going on out there. I just had a good friend of mine who, they've had his skincare line since day one. They ousted that and they're doing something else now. I don't know what they're doing, but they're going to do something because he called me and said, can you help me place it somewhere? So, I mean, all this stuff's going on. People are eventually going to say, oh my gosh. And when you've got leaders that are leaving and going elsewhere, they really start to cause a problem. Because now, and we've seen this, and they didn't put these in here, but we've seen a lot of people now suspended. A lot of people, they're saying you're cross-recruiting. Actually, I've seen a lot of cross-recruiting going on. That's a given. Now, I've seen some that has done it. I mean, they just moved on and they did it right. There's some others that are truly going in and trying to raid the downlines. Guys, you can't do that. That's unethical too. Okay, so don't be doing that crap. Okay, work your business correctly. Leave if you want to leave. If you've lost trust in the leadership over there, leave. Go on. If you've not lost trust, keep it up. You know, one thing I can say about Garrett McGraw, I can say a lot of things about Garrett. Okay, but the one thing I do know, when he puts his mind to building an organization, him and Sylvia are going to build an organization. So if they're over there now and they're working and they're helping Mark and Judy and everybody else, hey, if the company can weather all this, hey, maybe this thing can go. It's that simple. But until then, we're going to stay reporting on this because the reps in the field, are who get hurt. And if there's enough crap that is filed with the SEC, if there's enough of this lawsuit stuff that's out there, if there's enough issues, I guarantee you the FTC is going to be involved, the SEC is going to be involved, and the FDA is going to be involved. So you folks that are top leaders over there, I think it's time you have a come to Jesus meeting with your executive team, with the board of directors, and say, hey, we want you guys to get rid of this crap. Settle this stuff and let's get back to the business. Because when we were the happy coffee company, when we were growing, everybody was coming and wanting to be a part of us. And now this thing is flatlined. I mean, we literally are not seeing much out there in social media whatsoever right now. And that's concerning. I'm so sick and tired of seeing some great companies that could have been fantastic, just household iconic brands, go by the wayside. And over the last decade, we saw some great companies, some of them from Texas, some of them from Michigan, some of them from California, some of them from Utah, who were on their way up just like this. They were in the DSN top 100 list. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, they're gone. Billions in collective sales, gone. I really don't want to see that happen to Sharing Services, Elepreneurs Elevacity, to the reps. Okay, run this thing like a business, but understand that part of that business is protecting your field, not pretending that you're protecting your field, but truly protecting your field. I remember another public company Garrett was with at the time, Bozzi. Man, they were going great. And because he was focused in the field and Tom Chenault was focused in the field, crap went on at corporate. Man, you guys in the field need to focus on corporate and talk to them about this, especially if you've been awarded some warrants or you've got stock. As a stockholder, isn't it worth checking out? Hey guys, hope you had a great day. This is a lot of information. You can go check out the website, happycoffeetruth.com. It'll give you all of the documents. And like I said, there's facts that are there. If you read through the facts, eventually the court is going to determine the truth, and these cases will all disappear and be taken care of. But until then, stay humble, stay strong, and if you're in a home-based business, act like it.